Today we remember the life of our country is made possible by the lives given for our freedom. From the Minutemen at Concord to the Continental Army at Yorktown, from the ramparts of Fort McHenry to Jackson at New Orleans, from Fort Sumter to Appomattox Courthouse, from the destruction of the battleship Maine to San Juan Hill, from the sinking of the Lusitania to the Peace of Versailles, from Pearl Harbor to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, from North Korea crossing the 38th parallel to the Korean Armistice, from the Gulf of Tonkin to the fall of Saigon, through military action in Iran, El Salvador, Lebanon, Grenada, Panama, Honduras, Kuwait, Iraq, and Afghanistan. These are the sacrifices given for our nation. Indeed, without the great conflagration that happened 150 years ago, this would not be the United States at all. 2 million men of the Union and 750,000 rebels resolutely faced each other to answer a question that has plagued America since its inception. What does freedom mean? And who is free? And how does this work over such an enormous area among so many different peoples? These are political realities we cannot ignore. These become military realities as leaders and men pledge their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor for the sake of their home and their way of life. The Union had to be preserved. To that end, the freedom of every human being in this country had to be redefined. The Battle of Gettysburg in July of 1863 was the epitome of that struggle. The following November, President Lincoln was asked to make a few remarks of dedication for the cemetery on that battlefield. The featured speaker was Edward Everett, who completely engaged the audience with his masterful 2-hour oration. Lincoln was invited as a courtesy and surprised the organizers by accepting. His 2-minute, 272-word dedication was not quickly written on the back of an envelope while on the train to Gettysburg. The address was carefully crafted to express the scope and meaning of the conflict, indeed to express how it is that Americans go to war. A century later, President John F. Kennedy said about the battle in Lincoln's speech, 50 years ago the ground on which we here stand shuddered under the clash of arms and was consecrated for all time by the blood of American manhood. Abraham Lincoln, in dedicating this great battlefield, has expressed in words too eloquent for paraphrase or summary why this sacrifice was necessary. These words are true for every person who has stood his or her ground in the face of danger and oppression, who has given life and health for all that is valuable on this earth, who left parents and loved ones and children in grief that they may have life abundant. Here are President Lincoln's words.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus so far nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
All persons are created equal, and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The glory of our United States of America is not that we have completely established these unalienable rights, but that we struggle and strive to make this vision true. The writer of the Declaration of Independence talked about equality, though he owned other humans. European Americans forcibly took the land on which we stand today from Native Americans, and alienated them from their rights of liberty and the pursuit of happiness, and even their right to live peaceably at Sand Creek and Wounded Knee. Every person who is different by ethnicity, skin color, religion, or lifestyle knows the alienation. Every person who can see beyond their own comfort is mortified that brothers and sisters are made to suffer cruelly. Today we continue to struggle, individually and socially, with how, in a nation where all are created equal, some think they are more equal than others, and some are deemed far less equal. And this conundrum brings us to God. For like Thomas Jefferson, we know the truth, and yet we look out at a world where the truth seems stillborn. We know God is good all the time, and yet we see so much that is obviously not good, even evil, all around us and within us. And almost surprisingly, it is in the great dynamic of life and death that we find God, the one and only God, who is so far beyond our imaginations, our words shatter into 1,000 denominations and religions as we strive to put shape to the truth. And yet God already put shape to the truth. That shape is God the Son, hanging, impossibly suffering and dying, dead, gone. And before we leap to the resurrection, as we so often do, let us see Jesus Christ as one who is buried here, who gave his last full measure of devotion that we might live, might have liberty from the powers that would diminish us, and might pursue the happiness that joyous love offers. This is what we must remember on this Memorial Day. Remember that every day we must fight the forces and the powers of evil and wickedness, and give our full measure of devotion to the God of our understanding, our God who is love.